The explosion reverberated through the skeletal remains of the satellite metropolis, a deafening echo that sent shards of glass cascading down like lethal confetti. Commander Alara Trent barely had time to duck behind a crumbling pillar before the shockwave hit, her pulse racing as she scanned the horizon for the source of the attack. The enemy believed this city was their final conquest, unaware that they were walking into a trap. "Are the transmitters online?" Alara barked into her comm, her eyes narrowing against the swirling dust that painted the air a sickly orange. "Almost there, Commander," a voice crackled back. "We just need another minute." A minute they might not have, Alara thought grimly, as another blast rocked the ground beneath her feet. The alien coalition, arrogant in their technological superiority, had underestimated humanity's resolve and ingenuity. Their fleets hovered overhead, casting ominous shadows over the shattered skyline, their commanders confident that Earth's last defenders were broken and scattered. But the charade was almost over. Beneath the city, deep within the ruins of what had once been a bustling hub of human achievement, lay the weapon that would turn the tide. Its existence was a closely guarded secret, a last resort for a war humanity was never meant to win. Alara's heart pounded with the rhythm of a countdown she could almost hear ticking in her mind. One misstep, one premature move, and their carefully crafted illusion would shatter like the glass raining down around her. "Commander, they're advancing." Another voice rang out, urgency slicing through the static. Alara peered around the pillar, watching as alien troops moved methodically through the debris, their armor glinting with the dull sheen of a predator's eye. They were close, too close, and Alara knew that if the transmitters didn't activate soon, humanity's last gamble would be for naught. "Hold your positions," she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Remember, they think we're weaker than we are." A flicker of movement caught her eye, a squad of humans, ragged and worn but resolute, slipping through the shadows with the grace of ghosts. They were the embodiment of the ruse, soldiers playing the part of desperate survivors, their true purpose hidden beneath layers of subterfuge. The ground shuddered once more, and Alara's comm crackled to life. "Transmitters are online, Commander." A slow smile spread across her face. "Initiate the signal," she commanded, her voice a low whisper of defiance. As the command was executed, the air around the city began to hum, a low frequency that built into a crescendo of sound and light. The alien forces paused, their confidence faltering as the sky above them fractured, revealing the massive form of the hidden human fleet emerging from its cloaked position. Alara watched the shift in the enemy's stance, their certainty turning to confusion and fear. This was the moment they had been preparing for, a reversal of fortunes, an awakening of the giant that had played possum for too long. "Welcome to Earth," Alara murmured, her eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding above. "We hope you enjoy your stay." The first salvo from the hidden fleet lit up the sky, a dazzling display of firepower that signaled humanity's refusal to go quietly into the night. The aliens, caught off guard by the sheer audacity of the deception, scrambled to respond, their once imposing presence reduced to frantic desperation. But Alara knew the battle was far from over. It was only the beginning of a new phase in a war that had seen humanity pushed to the brink, only to rise from the ashes with a fierce, unyielding determination. The world held its breath as the tides of war shifted, and the fight for Earth's survival truly began. The sun hung low in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the ruined cityscape. The air was thick with dust, a constant reminder of the cataclysm that had reshaped the world. A soft breeze carried the scent of smoldering ruins and the faint echo of distant screams, a cacophony of despair that seemed to seep into the bones of those who remained. Amidst the rubble, a small band of survivors huddled around the remnants of an old-world map, spread out on a makeshift table of cracked concrete. Emma, their de facto leader, traced her finger along the faded paper, her expression a study in grim determination. "We need to reach the old power grid control," she said, her voice carrying a weight of authority that belied her slender frame. "If we can get it back online, we might just have a chance to contact any remaining enclaves." Beside her, Thomas, a former engineer with a penchant for pessimism, shook his head. "Assuming it's still operational, and that's a big if. The grid's been down for years. And even if we do get it running, what then? We broadcast a message and hope someone's listening?" Emma's eyes met his, steel against skepticism. "It's not just about hope. It's about making a stand. The more we wait, the more time the consortium has to tighten their grip." If there are others like us, they need to know they're not alone. The consortium, a shadowy conglomerate of surviving corporate interests, had emerged from the ashes of civilization like a hydra, sprawling across territories and subjugating any who opposed them. Their enforcers, a ruthless cadre known as the Executors, were infamous for their brutal efficiency and unwavering loyalty to the consortium's enigmatic council. "I'll go," said Kai, the youngest member of the group, his voice laced with a fierce resolve. He was barely 18, yet his eyes carried the burden of years. "I know the area. I can get us there faster." Emma studied him for a moment, weighing the boy's earnestness against the dangers they faced. "All right," she conceded, "but you'll need backup. We can't afford to lose anyone else." Thomas grunted in agreement, though his skepticism remained. "We should take the northern route, through the industrial park. Less chance of running into patrols there." As the plan solidified, the group dispersed to gather supplies, their movements a testament to the silent efficiency born of necessity. Emma lingered, her gaze drifting to the horizon where the sun painted the sky with hues of orange and crimson. "We have to be ready for anything," she murmured to herself, a mantra as much as a warning. Night descended swiftly, bringing with it a shroud of darkness that enveloped the city in its cold embrace. The group moved like shadows, slipping through the ruins with an expertise honed by years of survival. Kai led the way, his familiarity with the terrain guiding them through the labyrinthine streets. As they approached the industrial park, the air grew still, oppressive with the weight of anticipation. The park loomed ahead, its skeletal structures silhouetted against the starlit sky. Once a hub of productivity, it now stood as a testament to humanity's hubris, an empty shell, haunted by the ghosts of industry. Emma signaled for a halt, her senses finely attuned to the faintest hint of danger. "We need to be careful," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "The Executors patrol these areas, especially at night." As if summoned by her words, a distant rumble pierced the silence, a convoy of consortium vehicles, their headlights cutting through the darkness like blades. The group flattened against the walls of a crumbling building, holding their breath as the procession passed, a parade of power that seemed to mock their fragile resistance. Once the convoy disappeared into the night, the group resumed their journey, their steps quickened by the adrenaline of near discovery. They reached the control center, a monolithic structure that loomed menacingly against the night sky. Its entrance, a gaping maw of darkness, beckoned them with the promise of salvation or doom. Inside, the air was stagnant, thick with the scent of dust and decay. Emma led them through the corridors, her flashlight cutting a narrow path through the gloom. They reached the control room, a cavernous space filled with dormant machinery and shattered screens. Thomas set to work immediately, his hands moving with practiced ease over the consoles. "It's a mess," he muttered, his voice tinged with frustration. "But I think I can get something running." Kai stood watch at the entrance, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. Emma joined him, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. "If we can get this up and running, it's only a matter of time before the consortium notices. We'll have to be quick." Thomas's voice cut through the tension, a note of triumph coloring his words. "I've got power," he announced, a series of lights flickering to life around them. "Now, let's see if we can reach anyone." Emma took the microphone, her heart pounding in her chest as she spoke into the void. "This is Emma Carter, broadcasting on all frequencies. If there are any enclaves out there, we need your help. The consortium is tightening its control. We must unite. Humanity must stand together." Her message echoed through the silence, a beacon of hope cast into the abyss. They waited, the seconds stretching into eternity, each one a reminder of their precarious state. And then, a crackle of static, a voice, faint but unmistakable. "This is the Freehold Collective. We hear you, Emma. We're not far from your location. We can help." The group exchanged glances, a flicker of relief passing between them. But before they could savor the moment, Kai tensed, his eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the doorway. "We've got company," he hissed, his hand reaching for his weapon. The Executors had arrived, their figures silhouetted against the dim light. Clad in their ominous black armor, they moved with a precision that was unnerving, each step a testament to their lethal skill. Emma's mind raced, calculating their odds of survival. "We need to hold them off until help arrives," she said, her voice steady despite the rising panic. The battle that ensued was fierce, a desperate clash of wills against overwhelming odds. The executors, relentless in their assault, seemed to take pleasure in their pursuit, their tactics honed to perfection through years of subjugation. Emma fought with a ferocity born of desperation, her movements a blur of defiance. Kai, quick and nimble, darted between shadows, his strikes precise and deadly. Thomas, though less agile, held his ground, using his technical skills to outmaneuver their foes. But the executors were relentless, their numbers growing with each passing moment. It was clear the group was outmatched, the weight of their situation pressing down like a vice. As Emma dispatched another enemy, she caught sight of a figure in the shadows, a man, tall and imposing, his presence commanding attention even amidst the chaos. He watched the battle with a calm detachment, his expression one of amusement. The executor commander. Emma's heart sank as their eyes met, his gaze locking onto hers with a predatory intensity. He raised a hand, and the executors halted, their weapons poised in anticipation. "It seems we have a thorn in our side," the commander said, his voice smooth and mocking. "You've made quite the nuisance of yourselves." Emma straightened, defiance radiating from her every pore. "We're not afraid of you," she spat, her voice carrying across the room. The commander's smile widened, a chilling display of amusement. "Fear is irrelevant," he replied. "What matters is control, and you, my dear, are about to learn just how absolute ours is." As he spoke, the room was flooded with light, an overwhelming brightness that momentarily blinded them all. When their vision cleared, they found themselves surrounded, the executors closing in with renewed determination. Emma's mind raced, seeking any avenue of escape. But the net had closed around them, the weight of inevitability pressing down with a suffocating force. And then, a distant rumble, a sound that resonated through the air, growing louder with each passing second. The building trembled, the very walls vibrating with the force of approaching salvation. The Freehold Collective had arrived. Their vehicles burst through the darkness, a cavalcade of defiance that crashed into the fray with unbridled ferocity. The executors, caught off guard, faltered under the onslaught, their ranks splintering beneath the relentless assault. Emma seized the opportunity, rallying her group with a cry of defiance. They fought with renewed vigor, their hope rekindled by the arrival of allies. Amidst the chaos, the commander's eyes met Emma's once more, his expression shifting from amusement to something far more dangerous. "This isn't over," he warned, his voice a promise of retribution. Emma nodded, accepting the challenge with steely resolve. "No, it's just beginning." As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn, the executors retreating under the combined force of the Freehold Collective and Emma's group. The commander, realizing the futility of resistance, signaled a strategic withdrawal, his forces melting into the shadows. In the aftermath, the survivors stood amidst the wreckage, their breath ragged, their bodies weary but unbroken. The victory was theirs, but the cost was steep, a reminder of the struggle yet to come. Emma approached the leader of the Freehold Collective, a woman with eyes as sharp as her resolve. "Thank you," she said, the words heavy with gratitude. "We wouldn't have made it without you." The woman nodded, her gaze sweeping over the battered survivors. "We stand together," she replied, her voice carrying the weight of shared struggle. "The fight is far from over, but together, we are stronger." As dawn broke over the horizon, its light casting a new dawn upon the shattered world, Emma and her allies prepared for the battles to come. The road ahead was fraught with danger, the stakes higher than ever. But for the first time in years, they faced the future with hope, a fragile thing, but enough to kindle a fire in the darkness. And as the sun rose, bathing the world in its golden light, they knew the fight for humanity was just beginning. But they were ready. Together, they would stand against the consortium, for the sake of all who dared to dream of freedom. In the distance, the city lay silent, the echoes of battle fading into the dawn. But the fire of rebellion burned bright, a promise that humanity would not go quietly into the night. The chilling winds swept through the desolate cityscape, carrying with them echoes of what once was. Skyscrapers now stood as hollow sentinels, remnants of humanity's past ingenuity and a stark reminder of its fragile mortality. Amidst this landscape, a small group of humans moved with practiced caution, their footsteps barely disturbing the silence that hung like a shroud over the decaying metropolis. At the center of this group was Captain Elena Reyes, a seasoned leader whose eyes bore the weight of too many battles fought and too many lives lost. Her unit was a ragtag assembly of survivors, each one carrying their own scars from a world that had turned against them. Yet, they followed her with a loyalty born not from rank, but from respect and shared purpose. As they made their way through the crumbling streets, Reyes signaled for a halt. The group fanned out, instinctively seeking cover behind what debris remained. There was a strange tension in the air, a sense of foreboding that prickled at the edges of their awareness. "Report," Reyes whispered into her comm device. "Nothing on scanners, Captain," replied Sergeant Tomlin, her second in command. His voice was steady, but there was an undercurrent of uncertainty that didn't sit well with her. "Stay sharp," Reyes instructed. "This place is too quiet." Quiet was dangerous. Quiet meant the enemy could be lurking, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Cathari, an alien race that had descended upon Earth with devastating efficiency, excelled in exploiting any weakness. Humanity's technological and numerical inferiority had been evident from the outset. The Cathari were an enigma, biomechanical beings with advanced technology that dwarfed human innovation. Their ships sailed through the skies like predators through the sea, their soldiers clad in armor that shimmered with alien energy. Yet, for all their superiority, the Cathari had not counted on one thing: humanity's tenacity. "Movement, 10 o'clock, whispered Private Jensen, his voice barely audible over the comms. Reyes followed his gaze, her eyes narrowing as she spotted the telltale shimmer of Cathari cloaking technology. "Hold your fire," she ordered, assessing the situation. The Cathari were out there, but they hadn't made their move. Were they testing her unit's resolve? Or was there something more at play? "Captain, what are they waiting for?" Tomlin asked, echoing her thoughts. Reyes shook her head, frustration mounting. "I don't know, but I don't like it. Stay alert. Everyone, tighten formation. We're pulling back." As they began their cautious retreat, Reyes couldn't shake the feeling that the Cathari were toying with them, probing their defenses, looking for an opening. The aliens were meticulous, their strategies precise. It was a game of chess, and humanity appeared to be playing with half the pieces missing. Back at the makeshift command post, a converted underground parking structure, Reyes gathered her officers for a briefing. The flickering lights cast shadows across the worn maps and data screens that dominated the room. "We're being watched," she began, her voice firm. "The Cathari know we're here. They're testing us, trying to gauge our response." "Captain, if they know we're here, why haven't they attacked?" asked Lieutenant Vega, his brow furrowed in confusion. "That's what worries me," Reyes admitted. "They have the advantage in numbers and technology. If they wanted to, they could wipe us out with minimal effort." "Then what's stopping them?" Tomlin asked, arms crossed over his chest. Reyes hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I think they might be underestimating us. Or they have a plan we're not seeing. Either way, we can't afford to play into their hands." Vega nodded, understanding the unspoken implication. "We need to make them think we're weaker than we are." "Exactly," Reyes confirmed. "It's a dangerous game, but it's the only one we've got. We need to draw them in, make them overconfident. Then, we strike." The officers exchanged glances, the gravity of the situation settling over them like a heavy fog. They were fighting an uphill battle, and the odds were stacked against them. But there was no room for doubt, not now. As the meeting adjourned, Reyes lingered near the maps, tracing her fingers over the jagged lines that marked occupied territories. She felt a presence beside her and turned to find Tomlin watching her. "You okay, Captain?" he asked, his voice low. Reyes sighed, her facade of command slipping for just a moment. "I don't know, Tomlin. We're outmatched. Every day, the Cathari tighten their grip. We're running out of time." "We'll figure it out," Tomlin assured her. "We always have, do we?" she asked, more to herself than him. "How many more can we afford to lose before there's no one left to fight?" Tomlin placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We won't let it come to that." Reyes nodded, grateful for his support. She couldn't afford to show weakness, not when her people needed her to be strong. But in that quiet moment, she allowed herself a sliver of vulnerability, a reminder of the humanity they were all fighting to preserve. As the days passed, the situation grew increasingly dire. Supplies were dwindling, morale was faltering, and the Cathari continued their relentless encroachment. Every skirmish left its mark, chipping away at the fragile hope that kept the resistance alive. Yet, amidst the bleakness, there were moments of unexpected camaraderie. Reyes found herself leaning on those around her more than ever. Tomlin's steadfastness, Vega's strategic insights, Jensen's youthful optimism. They were her pillars, each one essential in their own way. The dynamic between them shifted subtly, the bonds forged in the crucible of shared struggle. They were more than soldiers, they were a family bound by purpose and necessity. But the pressure was unrelenting, and the weight of leadership took its toll. Reyes found herself haunted by the faces of the fallen, their sacrifices a constant reminder of the cost of their resistance. She knew they needed a breakthrough, something to turn the tide in their favor. The opportunity came in the form of intercepted communication, a rare chance to gain insight into Cathari intentions. It was a high-risk operation, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. As they prepared for the mission, Reyes gathered her team, the gravity of the moment reflected in their eyes. This was it, a chance to strike a blow against their oppressors and prove that humanity was not to be underestimated. Remember, this is about more than just survival, she reminded them. It's about sending a message. We may be outmatched, but we are not defeated. With those words echoing in their minds, they set out under the cover of darkness, their resolve steeling them against the fear that lurked at the edges of their consciousness. The mission was fraught with peril, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the Cathari encampment. They moved like shadows, slipping past patrols and automated defenses with practiced precision. But as they neared their objective, disaster struck. An unexpected patrol caught them unawares, triggering a firefight that shattered the silence of the night. Bullets and energy beams crisscrossed the air, the acrid scent of ozone mingling with the smoke of burning debris. Reyes barked orders, her voice cutting through the chaos as she directed her team to cover. In the midst of the battle, Tomlin was hit, his body crumpling to the ground. Reyes felt a surge of panic, but there was no time for hesitation. She reached his side, her heart pounding in her chest as she assessed his injuries. "You're going to be okay," she promised, her voice fierce with determination. Tomlin gritted his teeth against the pain, managing a weak smile. Just another day at the office, right? Reyes couldn't help but chuckle, even as she fought to suppress the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. Yeah, just another day. With the help of Vega and Jensen, they managed to extract Tomlin and retrieve to safety, the mission a partial success. They had gained valuable intelligence, but the cost had been high. Back at the command post, Reyes faced the reality of their situation. The Cathari were relentless, and their resources were dwindling. But as she looked around at her team, battered yet unbroken, she felt a flicker of hope. They were outmatched, yes, but they were not outdone. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or numbers, but in its capacity to endure, to adapt, to fight against impossible odds. Reyes understood now that their greatest weapon was not the illusion of weakness, but the truth of their resilience. They would continue to fight, not just for survival, but for a future where humanity could once again thrive. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Reyes stood with her team, their silhouettes stark against the rubble-strewn landscape. Together, they faced the uncertain future, united in purpose and unyielding in spirit. In that moment, beneath the shadow of defeat, they found the strength to rise again. And in their unity, there was the promise of something greater, a testament to the indomitable will of the human spirit. For now, the fight continued, and with it, the hope that one day, they would emerge victorious against the darkness that sought to consume them. The sun set in muted colors across the desolate horizon, casting long shadows over the remnants of what once was a thriving metropolis. The skeletal remains of skyscrapers loomed like silent sentinels against the twilight sky, their glass skins shattered and reflective steel rusted and reclaimed by creeping vines. In the heart of this ruined landscape, a small group of humans had managed to eke out a fragile existence, clinging to survival in the face of overwhelming adversity. Alex stood atop the crumbling rooftop of what had once been a high-rise, scanning the horizon through a pair of battered binoculars. The wind whipped through the tattered remnants of their jacket, and for a moment, they felt like a ghost peering into a haunted future. Down below, in the makeshift camp they had assembled, the others waited with an uneasy mix of hope and desperation. "Anything?" asked Maya as she climbed up beside Alex, her posture a testament to the fatigue that weighed heavily on all of them. Her dark eyes were sharp, though, reflecting a fierce will that refused to be extinguished. "Nothing yet," Alex replied, lowering the binoculars. "But they're out there. I can feel it." Maya nodded, her jaw set in determination. "They're getting bolder. Last night's raid was the closest they've come yet. We can't keep moving like this forever. They in question were the Overseers, an alien force that had descended upon Earth a decade ago, reshaping the world in their image and subjugating humanity with brutal efficiency. Their technology was vastly superior, and their motives inscrutable. The remaining human population was divided, scattered into small factions, each struggling to survive amidst dwindling resources and constant surveillance. Any word from the other groups? Alex asked, hoping for some sign of unity in the fractured human resistance. Maya shook her head. Communications are down again. The EMP blasts have fried most of our tech. We're back to smoke signals at this rate. Frustration simmered beneath the surface of their words. Despite their best efforts to innovate, to adapt old-world technologies into new tools, it seemed the Overseers were always one step ahead. It was as if they had a sixth sense for human defiance. We need to get creative, Alex said, echoing the thoughts that had circled their mind for days. Find new ways to communicate, new strategies. As they spoke, a low rumble echoed across the cityscape, a shiver in the air that spoke of something colossal moving in the shadows. The Overseers were on the move again. Back underground, Maya urged. Before they spot us. As they descended into the labyrinthine network of tunnels that they had carved beneath the city streets, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The Overseers were relentless, their patrols increasingly frequent and their strikes more devastating. Every day the camp lost another member to capture or worse, and morale was slipping like sand through their fingers. In the dim glow of the underground bunker, the faces of their comrades were drawn and haggard. The air hung heavy with the scent of fear and sweat. They needed a win, something to rally behind, or they risked collapsing under the weight of their despair. We might have one last shot, said Eli, their makeshift engineer, who sat hunched over a table strewn with wires and parts scavenged from the ruins. His fingers moved with deft precision, a testament to his skill and adaptability. I've been working on a way to disrupt their sensors. If it works, we might have a chance to hit them hard. The room fell silent, the hope in Eli's voice like a flicker of light in the darkness. But they all knew the risks. The Overseers were unforgiving, and any attempt to strike back would come at a heavy price. We've got to try, Maya said, her voice steady. But we need more than a plan. We need everyone on board. Alex nodded, feeling the weight of leadership settle on their shoulders like a mantle of iron. Let's gather everyone. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. As the group convened in the cramped confines of the bunker, Alex laid out the details of Eli's plan. It was ambitious, bordering on reckless, but it was the kind of bold move that had kept them alive this long. They would use the city's old power grid to create a localized electromagnetic pulse, temporarily blinding the Overseer's sensors and giving the humans a window to strike at their communication hub. We'll need to act fast, Eli warned. Once they realize what's happening, they'll retaliate. Hard. A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was their chance to take the fight to the Overseers, to show them that humanity would not go quietly into the night. The plan was set in motion with meticulous precision. Every member of the camp had a role to play, from gathering the necessary materials to mapping out escape routes in case things went south. As they worked, a sense of camaraderie began to take root, a shared determination that bound them together. Yet, as the hours slipped by and the moment of action drew near, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The Overseers were cunning, and it was only a matter of time before they adapted to humanity's latest gambit. The attack began under the cover of darkness, the city wrapped in a shroud of silence. Eli's fingers danced over the makeshift controls, and with a flick of a switch, the old power grid hummed to life. A surge of energy cascaded through the wires, reaching its crescendo in a blinding flash that lit up the night sky. For a brief, exhilarating moment, the plan worked. The Overseers' sensors flickered and died, their patrols thrown into disarray. The humans surged forward, their movements fueled by adrenaline and hope. But the victory was short-lived. As the humans reached the communication hub, a trap sprung with deadly precision. Overseer forces emerged from the shadows, their numbers far greater than anticipated. It was as if they had been waiting, biding their time for this very moment. Chaos erupted as the two sides clashed. Alex fought with everything they had, but the Overseers were relentless, their technology a brutal reminder of the gulf that separated predator from prey. Fall back, Maya shouted, her voice cutting through the din of battle. We need to regroup. Reluctantly, the humans retreated, their once burning hope now a fragile ember. As they fled into the night, Alex felt the weight of their failure, a crushing blow that threatened to snuff out their spirit. Back in the safety of their underground refuge, the reality of their situation settled in. They had gambled everything on this one chance, and now they were left with nothing but the cold knowledge that the overseers were always watching, always waiting. We'll try again, Eli said, though his voice was tinged with uncertainty. We'll find another way. But Alex knew that time was running out. The overseers would not rest until humanity was brought to heel, and their patience was wearing thin. The next strike would be decisive, and the humans could not afford another mistake. As the group huddled together, drawing strength from one another, Alex could see the exhaustion etched into their faces. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options. Yet, amidst the despair, there was a flicker of something else, a spark of creativity, a hint of resilience that refused to be extinguished. We'll find a way, Alex vowed, their voice steady despite the heaviness in their heart. Whatever it takes, we'll find a way. The night stretched on, a relentless march toward an uncertain dawn. In the shadows of their darkest moment, the humans clung to each other, their unity a fragile bulwark against the tide of despair. But even as they gathered their strength for the trials to come, the overseers were already moving, tightening their grip on the world with a methodical coldness that left no room for mercy. As the first light of morning crept across the horizon, Alex knew that the hardest battle was yet to come. They had glimpsed what made humanity special, a resilience born of necessity, a creativity forged in the fires of desperation. But the cost had been high, and the stakes were higher still. With a resolve born of desperation, Alex looked at their companions, each face a testament to the indomitable spirit that refused to be broken. They were all that stood between freedom and oblivion, the last line of defense in a world teetering on the brink. And as the overseer's shadow loomed ever larger, the humans braced themselves for the struggle ahead, knowing that their darkest hour was yet to come. The air was thick with ash and despair, the remnants of a civilization that once sang with the promise of stars now reduced to whispers of broken dreams. From the shattered skyline of New Chicago to the smoldering wastelands of former Europe, humanity's great cities were now skeletal ruins, haunted by the memories of what had been. The alien conquerors, the Wygroth, celebrated their victory with cold, metallic efficiency, their ships hovering like vultures above the dying Earth. In the depths of the underground bunker known as Haven 9, a flickering light bulb cast shadows over the faces of those huddled within. They were the remnants of a resistance, a motley assembly of survivors who had refused to bow to the invaders' rule. Among them was Mara, a former aerospace engineer whose hands now bore the calluses of a warrior, and Jackson, an ex-senator whose eloquence had once swayed millions but now struggled to kindle hope in the eyes of the few. Are we really going to listen to the words of a politician? A voice broke the silence, sharp with skepticism and the bitterness of loss. It belonged to Sarah, a pragmatic survivalist who had long abandoned faith in the old systems. Jackson met her glare with weary resilience. I was a politician, yes, but now I am one of you. We have no illusions left, only the truth of our lives, and that truth demands we fight. Fight with what? Sarah snapped. Sticks and stones? Our weapons are scraps, our numbers thin. Every day, more of us are taken, or worse. Mara stepped forward, her presence a calming force amidst the tension. The Wygroth think us beaten, scattered. They've grown complacent, confident in their dominion. That's our strength. They don't understand us, our capacity to endure, to adapt. At the center of the room, a table held a rudimentary map of the world, marked with red ink where humanity still clung to life. It was a testament to their struggle, each mark a story of defiance and loss. Mara gestured to it, her voice steady. They overlooked the simplest truth. We're not fighting for conquest or power, but for survival. And there's nothing more dangerous than an animal cornered. The room fell silent as her words sank in. They were a ragged band, but the spark of defiance in their eyes rekindled, a flame against the darkness. Jackson leaned forward, tracing a finger along a series of lines etched into the map. The Wygroth control the skies and the main cities, but they can't cover the entire planet. We can use the old infrastructure, the tunnels and the sewers. If we can disable just one of their command hubs, it might give us the edge we need. Sarah crossed her arms, Skepticism still etched into her features, but her resolve was undeniable. "And how do you suggest we do that?" Mara exchanged a glance with Jackson. "We have something they don't know we possess. Something from before the fall." Reaching into her satchel, she pulled out a small, metallic device, its surface dull and unassuming. "An EMP. It's not much, but if we can get it close enough to one of their main relays, it could disrupt their communications long enough for us to strike." A murmur rippled through the room, equal parts hope and apprehension. This was a chance, albeit a slim one, to turn the tide. "How do we even get close enough?" a young man asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mara smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "We have a little bit of human ingenuity, and a whole lot of stubbornness." The plan was set. Under cover of night, a small team would make their way through the abandoned subway systems, moving with the stealth born of desperation. The path was fraught with danger, the tunnels infested with the Wygroth's mechanical sentinels and the ever-present threat of collapse. Each step through the darkness was a testament to their courage, the echoes of their passage a silent defiance against the oppressive silence of the world above. Mara led the way, her heart pounding with the rhythm of fear and hope intertwined. As they neared the Wygroth relay station, the air grew colder, the walls slick with moisture. The station was a monolith of alien technology, its surface shimmering with an eerie, otherworldly light. Sentinels patrolled its perimeter, their movements precise and methodical. "Now," Mara whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the machines. Jackson and Sarah moved with her, every step calculated, every breath held. They reached the base of the structure, its towering presence a reminder of the enemy's overwhelming power. Mara knelt, setting the EMP against the cool surface. Her fingers trembled as she activated the device, the soft click echoing like a gunshot in the stillness. 5 minutes, she said, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. "We need to be clear before it goes off." The retreat was a race against time, each second ticking away as they moved back through the tunnels. Behind them, the EMP's pulse would spread, a wave of disruption that would temporarily blind the Wygroth, giving humanity the chance it so desperately needed. But as they emerged into the night, the horizon ablaze with the cold light of alien technology, Mara felt a pang of doubt. Would it be enough? Could their small act of defiance truly change anything in the grand scope of the Wygroth's dominion? The answer came in the form of a distant explosion, a fireball that lit up the sky, proof that the EMP had hit its mark. Cheers rose from the shadows, the sound of hope reborn. It was a small victory, a single moment in a war that had cost them so much, but in that moment, it was everything. As the firelight flickered across their faces, Mara turned to Jackson and Sarah, her voice filled with the unyielding spirit of humanity. "This is just the beginning. We won't stop until we've taken back what is ours." Jackson nodded, his eyes alight with determination. "We have a chance now. It's time to unite the scattered, to rally every last soul who still remembers what it means to fight." The message went out, carried by runners and whispered through the networks of resistance that spanned the globe. It spread like wildfire, igniting the hearts of those who had once thought themselves alone. Across the continents, people began to stir, to rise from the ashes of their despair. In the hidden enclaves and secret bastions, humanity's ingenuity flared anew. Engineers tinkered with salvaged technology, turning the enemy's machines against them. Farmers turned their fields into arsenals, crafting weapons from the remnants of the past. Children who had known only war and want learned the stories of their ancestors, tales of resilience and unity. The Wygroth watched from their towers of steel and glass, their gaze turned inward, confident in their victory. They did not see the storm gathering beneath their feet, the wave of change that was rising from the depths of human resolve. In the weeks that followed, skirmishes erupted across the globe, each one a testament to the indomitable will of those who refused to surrender. The Wygroth were taken by surprise, their overconfidence their greatest weakness. For all their technology, they could not comprehend the fire that burned in the hearts of those they sought to conquer. As the tide began to turn, the stories of resistance became legends, whispered by campfires and spread through the networks that crisscrossed the fractured world. The names of Mara, Jackson, and Sarah were spoken with reverence, symbols of a new era dawning. In the heart of Haven 9, the survivors gathered once more, their numbers swelling with each victory. The map on the table was marked with new points of light, places where humanity had struck back, where the Wygroth had been forced to retreat. Mara stood at its center, her gaze steady and unyielding. We have shown them that we will not be broken, that we will not bow. But the fight is far from over. We must push forward, take back our world one step at a time. Jackson nodded, a smile breaking through the lines of worry etched into his face. We've done the impossible before. We can do it again. Sarah, ever the realist, added, we have more work ahead than behind. But for the first time, I believe we can win. The room was filled with a quiet determination, the air buzzing with the energy of belief turned to action. It was a fragile hope, yet it was enough to sustain them, to drive them forward into the unknown. And as the world slowly awakened from its long nightmare, the Wygroth began to feel the rumblings beneath their perfectly ordered empire. They had underestimated the resilience of the human spirit, the power that lay in unity and defiance. Mara, Jackson, and Sarah knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril, that the cost of freedom would be high. But as they stood together, they knew that they were not alone, that they were part of something greater than themselves. In that moment, they could almost hear the whispers of those who had come before, urging them onward, reminding them of the strength that lay in the human heart. The darkest hour was behind them, and in its place, a dawn of possibilities stretched across the horizon. It was a new beginning, a chance to reclaim not just their world, but their future. And so they marched forward, their eyes fixed on the horizon, ready to face whatever lay ahead with courage and conviction. For they were human, and there was no force in the universe that could quench the fire of their spirit. The horizon was a jagged tear of rusted metal and charred concrete, the remnants of what once had been the bustling metropolis of New Haven. Now, it was a desolate reminder of humanity's fall, a place where the bones of skyscrapers clawed at the ashen sky. Yet amidst this desolation, a flicker of defiance remained. The city, abandoned by those who had forsaken hope, had become the crucible for a new epic, one forged by the steely resolve of those who had refused to succumb. In the heart of this twisted landscape, a hidden enclave hummed with clandestine activity. Beneath the shattered ruins lay a series of interconnected tunnels and bunkers, remnants of an old world that had sought to prepare for the unthinkable. It was here that the remnants of humankind gathered, a patchwork society of survivors, fighters, and thinkers who had not only endured but had begun to rally. Daniel Voss, a wiry man whose eyes glimmered with determination, stood before a gathered assembly. We've been underestimated, he declared, his voice a low rumble that resonated through the chamber, but that is their mistake, not ours. They believe us broken, scattered. They think we lack the means or the will. It's time to show them just how wrong they are. His audience, a motley crew of engineers, former soldiers, scientists, and civilians, listened intently. The air was thick with anticipation, the heavy silence punctuated by the distant echoes of wind howling through the ruins overhead. Daniel's words were a spark, igniting the embers of a long-dormant resolve. These people were not merely survivors, they were the architects of a new dawn. Among them was Dr. Alara Boone, a physicist whose brilliance had been eclipsed only by her adaptability. Her research into sustainable energy had been dismissed as a pipe dream by the world's former powers, but now it formed the backbone of their survival. Her eyes, sharp and probing, met Daniel's. "It's not just about survival anymore, is it?" she asked, her voice carrying the weight of understanding. Daniel shook his head. "No, it's about reclaiming what was ours. It's about redefining our future." He paused, scanning the room, ensuring every eye was on him. "We've developed new technologies, new strategies. We're not just fighting to hold on, we're fighting to win." From the shadows, a figure shifted, a reminder of the adversary they faced. The Overseers, an alien coalition that had swept across the earth, leaving devastation in their wake. They had underestimated humanity, seeing them as nothing more than remnants of a bygone age, scattered tribes in a world they had conquered. But the Overseers had failed to grasp the essence of humanity's strength. It was not just in their numbers or their technology, but in their ingenuity, their ability to adapt and to fight beyond reason. The Overseers, in their arrogance, had overlooked the most fundamental aspect of humanity, a relentless spirit that refused to die. "Alara, show them what we've been working on," Daniel prompted, gesturing for her to take the floor. Alara stepped forward, her presence commanding respect. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, unassuming device, a sleek, metallic cube that fit comfortably in her palm. "This," she began, holding it up for all to see, is what they don't expect. The crowd leaned forward, eyes wide with curiosity. The device, though simple in appearance, was a breakthrough, a compact energy source capable of powering not only their settlement but also their weaponry. It was a key to leveling the battlefield. It's a portable fusion reactor, Alara explained. Something they believed impossible for us to develop under these conditions. With this, we can operate independently of their grid. We can launch strikes without warning, move without detection. It gives us the strategic advantage. Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. The overseers had assumed control by monopolizing energy, but with this innovation, the balance could shift. Daniel nodded, a fierce grin spreading across his face. It's time to take the fight to them, he declared. We've identified a weak point in their defenses, a supply depot on the outskirts of what was once the industrial district. It's lightly guarded, and with our new capabilities, it can be a turning point. The room buzzed with a newfound energy. Maps were unrolled, strategies refined. The plan was audacious, risky, but it was their best chance to strike a blow that would echo across the occupied territories. In the days that followed, preparations intensified. Teams were assembled, equipment calibrated, and every possible contingency planned for. The bunker became a hive of activity, each individual driven by a singular purpose. As the day of the operation approached, nerves were taut, but the resolve was unbreakable. The overseers, entrenched in their illusion of superiority, patrolled lazily, oblivious to the storm that brewed beneath their feet. They were confident in their technology and their numbers, dismissing humanity as a nuisance rather than a threat. It was a fatal underestimation. As dawn broke on the day of the operation, a small team led by Daniel and Alara set out under the cover of darkness. The air was crisp, the silence of the early morning broken only by the soft crunch of debris underfoot. The city loomed around them, a labyrinth of shadows and echoes. Navigating through the ruins, they reached the outskirts of the industrial district. The supply depot lay ahead, a sprawling complex guarded by a handful of overseer sentinels. The plan was simple yet daring, a swift assault, utilizing the element of surprise and the power of Alara's device. As they approached the perimeter, Daniel signaled for the team to halt. He turned to Alara, who nodded in understanding. The moment had come to unveil humanity's new strength. From her pack, Alara retrieved a small, compact drone. She activated it, and with a whir, it lifted into the air, guided by her deft fingers. The drone was equipped with the fusion device, its payload capable of a controlled detonation, enough to disrupt the overseer's operations without causing collateral damage. High above, the drone soared over the depot, unseen and unheard. The team watched, breath held, as Alara maneuvered it into position. The overseers, oblivious, continued their patrols, their technology blind to this human ingenuity. With a final adjustment, Alara set the drone to hover, its sensors locked on target. She glanced at Daniel, who gave a nod of assent. It was time. With a press of a button, Alara initiated the detonation sequence. A flash of light erupted from the sky, followed by a low rumble as the fusion device activated. The explosion was precise, a burst of energy that surged through the depot, disabling systems and sending the overseers into disarray. In the chaos that followed, Daniel and his team moved swiftly, exploiting the confusion. They breached the perimeter, engaging the disoriented sentinels with a ferocity that belied their small numbers. The overseers, caught off guard, faltered under the unexpected assault. It was a testament to human adaptability and courage, a strike at the heart of an occupying force that had grown complacent. For too long, humanity had been on the defensive, scraping by in the shadows, but no more. This was the moment they began to reclaim their world. The battle was fierce but brief. The overseers, unprepared for the resilience of their adversaries, retreated, their communication in disarray, their confidence shaken. It was a victory, not just of tactics but of spirit, a reminder that humanity was far from defeated. As the dust settled, Daniel surveyed the captured depot. It was a small victory, perhaps, but one that resonated far beyond its immediate impact. It was a declaration, a signal that humanity was ready to fight back. Alara joined him, her expression one of quiet triumph. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice steady. "We've shown them what we're capable of." Daniel nodded, the weight of their accomplishment settling upon him. "They won't underestimate us again," he replied, a fierce determination in his gaze. "We've turned the tide, now it's time to finish what we've started." Together, they stood amidst the wreckage, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. The overseers would regroup, no doubt, but they would face an adversary far more formidable than they had ever imagined. Humanity, against all odds, was rising. The message spread quickly through the network of survivors, a clarion call that echoed across the fractured landscape. The news of the victory sparked hope, igniting a fire that had long been smoldering. The tide was shifting, and with each step, humanity moved closer to reclaiming their world. From the shadows, the overseers watched, their confidence cracked, their plans unraveling. They were beginning to see the truth, a truth they had long denied. Humans were not merely survivors, they were innovators, warriors, and above all, a force that refused to be conquered. In the days to come, the conflict would escalate, the stakes rising with each confrontation. But the path had been set, and humanity, with its newfound strength and unity, was prepared to meet the challenge. They would fight for their future, for their planet, and for the right to determine their own destiny. The turning point had arrived, and with it, the promise of a new dawn, a dawn that would rise not from the ashes of defeat, but from the unwavering resolve of those who dared to dream of victory. The blackened sky over New Haven crackled with the electric discharge of alien drones swarming the perimeter. Their sleek, metallic forms flitted like a cloud of locusts, seeking to snuff out the last ember of human resistance. But below, in the heart of the shielded compound, humanity's finest minds and bravest hearts gathered, each one a thread in the tapestry of defiance that had been woven across decades of darkness. Commander Alara Voss stood before the digital map flickering on the war room's central table, her eyes alight with determination. Her voice, steady and clear, cut through the tension that hung in the air like a fog. "This is our moment. Today, we show them what it means to be human." Admiral Kato Nakamura nodded, his weathered face reflecting the hard-earned wisdom of years spent battling the alien oppressors. "We've come too far to falter now. The new defense grid is operational, and the quantum disruptors are in place. It's time to give them a taste of our resolve." Around the table, seasoned leaders and fresh recruits alike felt the surge of anticipation. They had all seen the devastation wrought by the Thalaxians, a race that had descended upon Earth with no warning, subduing governments, dismantling infrastructure, and enslaving those they deemed weak. Yet, what they had failed to account for was the indomitable spirit of humanity. In the midst of the chaos, a group of scientists, engineers, physicists, and tacticians had forged an alliance that transcended borders and ideologies. Through sheer ingenuity, they had repurposed Earth's dormant technologies, reawakening ancient satellites and converting them into weapons of precision and hope. Now, all those efforts converged in this singular moment. Dr. Amina Salim, the genius behind the defense grid, glanced at her tablet, her fingers dancing over the controls with precision. "The shield is holding at 98% efficiency. As soon as the disruptors fire, we'll have a window. It's narrow, but it's enough." Alara nodded, her gaze meeting each of her compatriots. "Let's make it count. Activate the disruptors." The room held its collective breath as Dr. Salim's command resonated through the control panels. Above, an invisible web of energy unfurled, a symphony of quantum interference that scrambled the drone's navigation systems. The swarm hesitated, faltered, and then broke apart as if scattered by an unseen wind. The Thalaxians, for all their technological superiority, had underestimated the human capacity for adaptation. Their overconfidence had blinded them to the potential latent within their quarry. But now, as their drones floundered and fell from the sky like mechanical rain, they began to realize the magnitude of their error. In the command center aboard the Thalaxian mothership, Overseer Zorith watched the unfolding scene with mounting disbelief. The humans, whom he had dismissed as primitive and divided, had somehow managed to turn the tide. Their resistance was unexpected, their resourcefulness a revelation. It was a miscalculation that would cost them dearly. On the ground, the human forces seized the opportunity created by the disruptors. Squads of infantry, clad in exosuits engineered from scavenged alien materials, surged forward with newfound vigor. They moved with precision and purpose, their coordinated assault a testament to the unity forged in adversity. Lieutenant Miguel Torres led his unit through the smoldering ruins of what had once been a bustling city. His team advanced in perfect synchrony, their movements a ballet of destruction as they dismantled the remaining Thalaxian outposts. Each victory, each inch of reclaimed land, was a testament to the resilience that burned in the hearts of those who refused to be broken. Back at New Haven, the digital map updated in real time, displaying the shrinking territory under Thalaxian control. Admiral Nakamura allowed himself a rare smile. They're reeling. We've got them on the back foot now. Alara shared the sentiment, but her focus remained unyielding. We need to keep pressing. The mothership is still in play. Until it's neutralized, the threat isn't over. Above the Earth, the Thalaxian mothership loomed, its massive form casting a shadow that stretched for miles. It was the heart of their operations, the source from which their domination had spread like a cancer. And it was towards this behemoth that humanity now directed its fury. Dr. Salim's voice broke through the chatter. Targeting systems are locked onto the mothership. We're ready for the final strike. Do it, Alara commanded. In space, the array of reactivated satellites aligned, their solar panels shimmering against the backdrop of the cosmos. Energy pulsed through them, converging into a focused beam of destructive power. It was the culmination of years of clandestine work, the product of human tenacity and creativity. The beam lanced through the void, a spear of light that found its mark with unerring precision. On the Thalaxian bridge, alarms blared, and panic rippled through the ranks. Overseer Zorith's composure cracked as the mothership shuddered beneath the impact. Systems failed, control slipped from their grasp, and the realization set in: humanity had turned their own tools against them. The mothership began to succumb, its formidable presence unraveling as explosions rippled through its corridors. The vessel, once a symbol of invincible power, now spiraled towards its demise, a meteor of their own making. Alara watched the destruction unfold on the screen, her heart lifting with a mix of triumph and sorrow. This was the cost of victory, the price of freedom reclaimed. As the mothership burned against the canvas of the sky, it illuminated the dawn of a new era. We did it, Nakamura whispered, awe threading through his voice. Yes, Alara replied, her eyes reflecting the glow of the distant conflagration. But this is just the beginning. We have to rebuild, to ensure that what we've reclaimed is never lost again. Around her, the room erupted into cheers, a cathartic release of emotions pent up for too long. They had faced extinction, and yet, through sheer determination, they had emerged victorious. The Thalaxians had underestimated humanity, and in their hubris, they had paved the way for their own downfall. On the ground, as the news spread, celebrations broke out amidst the rubble. People who had known only fear and oppression now embraced hope and freedom. Across the globe, resistance cells that had fought in isolation now found unity in shared victory. The Thalaxians, meanwhile, were left to grapple with the enormity of their failure. Their once unquestioned dominance shattered, their fleet in disarray, they retreated, leaving Earth to the species they had so grievously underestimated. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the fires of battle cooled, humanity faced the daunting task of rebuilding. But they did so with a renewed spirit, their bonds strengthened by shared adversity. They had proven that even in the darkest of times, the light of human excellence could shine through. And so, beneath the stars where their victory had been forged, humanity stood united, ready to carve a future from the ashes of the past. They had reclaimed their world, and with it, the promise of a new dawn. The dust had barely settled across the charred landscape when the survivors emerged from their makeshift bunkers. Their eyes, adjusted to darkness, squinted against the dawn that spilled over the horizon like molten gold. The world was a patchwork of ruin and hope, but this was a new dawn, one that humanity had earned with blood and bravery. As the sun rose, Commander Elise Moran stood on the shattered remains of what had once been the Capitol Hill, surveying the scene. This had been the epicenter of humanity's last stand, a place of both remembered glory and recent tragedy. Now, it stood as a testament to resilience and the indomitable spirit that had turned the tide of war. Is it really over? A voice asked from behind her. It was Dr. Amara Chen, the scientist whose breakthroughs in energy shielding had given humanity the edge it so desperately needed. Elise nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon where the alien mothership had fallen. It's over, she replied, a faint smile tugging at her lips. We did it, Amara. We really did it. Amara exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. I always believed in us. Even when the odds were against us. Elise turned to her, a glint of humor in her weary eyes. And here I thought scientists were only supposed to rely on data. Amara chuckled, the sound a rare but welcome comfort in the aftermath. Sometimes, you have to rely on hope. The victory had been hard won. Years of struggle, sacrifice, and loss had culminated in this moment. The alien invaders, who had once seemed invincible, were now a scattered remnant, their technology and dominance shattered by humanity's unyielding will. It was a victory built not just on superior tactics but on a unity that transcended borders and creeds. In the face of annihilation, humanity had set aside its differences and stood as one. Amara's innovations had indeed turned the tide. Her energy shields had protected key installations, allowing humanity to regroup and launch a counterattack. But it was the courage of individuals like Captain Marcus Hayes that had made victory possible. Marcus, now a revered hero, had led the charge that finally brought the mothership crashing down. As Elise and Amara moved through the encampment, they saw the faces of those who had survived. Soldiers and civilians worked side by side, rebuilding what had been lost, forging new bonds in the fires of shared trial. Marcus, now a leader in the newly formed Global Council, approached them with a purposeful stride. His once weary face now bore a look of determination and hope. "We're making progress," he reported, gesturing to the collaborative efforts around them. "It's slow, but it's happening. For the first time in a long time, we're starting to rebuild." Elise nodded, and it's not just rebuilding structures. It's about rebuilding trust and cooperation. The Council is proof of that. Marcus grinned, a rare sight that illuminated his features. Who would have thought? Humans, the species that couldn't agree on anything, now united under a single banner. It was true. The Global Council was perhaps the most significant change to arise from the ashes of war. Comprising leaders from every nation, its creation marked a new era of cooperation. No longer would humanity be divided by petty squabbles and territorial disputes. They had seen the brink of extinction, and it had taught them the value of unity. From the Council's chambers, policies were being enacted that prioritized global welfare and sustainable growth. The remnants of alien technology, once a source of fear, were now being studied and integrated into human advancements. This technology promised to revolutionize industries, from energy to medicine, offering a glimpse into a future once thought unattainable. In the weeks that followed, humanity set about the task of healing the planet. The scars of war were deep, but so too was the resolve to restore what had been damaged. Projects to reforest devastated areas and clean polluted waters were initiated, drawing volunteers from every corner of the globe. Amara played a crucial role in these efforts, leading a task force dedicated to environmental restoration. Her knowledge and passion inspired many, and under her guidance, the planet began to heal. "It's a long road," she often said, "but every seed planted is a step towards a better future." Yet, not all change was immediate or easy. There were still factions resistant to the new order, remnants of the old world clinging to outdated ideologies. But these voices were increasingly drowned out by the overwhelming desire for peace and prosperity. Elise, now a key figure in the Council's Defense Committee, worked tirelessly to ensure that humanity remained vigilant. "We may have won the war," she reminded others, "but the peace is something we must continually strive for." As the months turned into years, humanity flourished in ways it never had before. The lessons learned from the conflict became the foundation for a new world order, one that celebrated diversity, innovation, and collaboration. In the heart of what had once been a battlefield, a monument was erected. It stood tall and proud, a symbol of resilience and hope. It bore the names of those who had fallen, a reminder of the price of freedom and the courage it took to achieve it. But more than that, it was a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. Marcus, Elise, and Amara stood before the monument on a bright spring day, each lost in their thoughts. They had been through so much together, and their bond was unbreakable. "Do you think they'll remember?" Marcus asked, his voice tinged with both hope and uncertainty. "They will," Elise replied confidently. "Because we'll make sure they do. History is not just about the past. It's about learning and growing from it." Amara nodded in agreement. "We've shown what we're capable of when we come together. That's the legacy we leave behind." As they stood together, surrounded by the vibrant life of a rejuvenated Earth, the future felt limitless. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger, wiser, and more unified than ever before. The echoes of the past war served as a reminder of their strength and a guide for the path ahead. This was the era of humanity's rebirth, a time when the impossible had become achievable. And as the sun set on the horizon, casting the world in a warm glow, it was clear that this was only the beginning. For humanity, this was not just a victory of survival. It was a triumph of the human spirit, a testament to the power of hope, cooperation, and unwavering determination. The world had been forever changed, and with it, the destiny of humankind. As night fell and stars dotted the sky, a sky now free of alien threat, one could almost hear the whispered promise carried on the wind. Humanity is here to stay. The universe had taken notice, and it was left to wonder just what this resilient species would achieve next. With renewed purpose and unity, humanity stood ready to face whatever the cosmos might throw their way. They had not only survived, they had thrived, proving once and for all that when united, humans were a force of nature, unstoppable and eternal. The future was theirs, a canvas upon which they would paint a new story, one of hope, resilience, and boundless possibility.